Okay, hello, Y12s. I am going to be going through question 3 from the 2022 probability paper. And as you can see from this question, this is a probability tree question. So I'm going to start off by drawing it from scratch and just going through each one of kind of the little bullet points and how I'm going to put that together in a tree. So let me just read through everything first. A large online survey was carried out asking 2,500 New Zealanders for their views about water use. 87% were concerned about water shortages, and 80% usually try to save water. 18% only try to save water when restrictions are in place. 2% never try to save water. Okay. Then it says, of those not concerned about water shortages, half usually try to save water. A quarter only try to save water when restrictions are in place. And then the rest never try to save water. Okay, use this information to complete the probability tree below. Now, they have given us the start of a tree. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy in what they've given me in the meantime. So we've got concerned, not concerned. Then we get broken up here into 3. We go to usually save water. Then we've got only save water when restrictions. Then we've got another group here that never save water. Okay, and they give me these amounts, which is going to be 0.8, 0.18, then 0.02. Okay, now I'm going to go back up here and have a look at what we're going to be doing. So, first things first, they're saying 87% were concerned. So that's going to fall under this concerned branch. So this is going to be 0.87. Okay, remember I'm popping it into decimal. It's just a little bit easier to work with. And then we've obviously going to have concerned, and then we've got not concerned. And I know that this needs to add up to 1. So if I had to go 1 minus 0.87, it's going to give me 0.13. So this is going to be 0.13, like that. Okay. So if we read this question again, I've pretty much done the whole top section because they've given it to you. The 80% that were concerned about water shortages. And let me just double check. So 80% usually save water, check. 18% only save when restrictions are in place, check. And 2% never save water, check. Okay, now let's move down here to concerned. And they've given us 3 branches. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3. And they say, of those not concerned about water shortages, so of those not concerned, so of this group, we've got half that usually save water. So half is a decimal, we would write as 0.5. Okay, then they say a quarter only save water when there's restrictions. And we will write a quarter as 0.25. And then they say the rest never try to save water. Never save water. So with our knowledge of trees, we know that this adds up to 1. We know that this adds up to 1. And this needs to add up to 1. So if I have to figure out what that is, I can go 1 minus 0.5 minus 0.25, which is going to give me 0.25. Or you could just look at it and see, oh, that's a half. I know that's a quarter, so I would need another quarter to make it a half. But for those interested, that's the working out, okay? So we've gone and now we have done our tree. Let's go ahead and look at the questions. So we've done that. Okay. What is the probability that a respondent chosen at random is concerned about water shortages and usually saves water? Okay, so they are concerned about water shortages and they usually save water. Now, if we have a look at our tree, they specifically want to know if someone is concerned and if they usually save water. So it would be this multiplied by this. Okay, so for question I, okay, what's the probability that somebody is concerned and usually saves water? Okay, we know we got to multiply along, so it's going to be 0.87 multiplied by 0.8. And that is going to give you an answer of 0.696. And that is our answer for I. Okay, now let's look at II. They say of 2,500 survey respondents, how many said they only save water when restrictions are in place? Okay, so of everybody, how many said they're only going to save water when there's restrictions in place? So let's have a look and try and find that on our tree. Okay, so I'm going to grab my highlighter. And they're interested in only save water when there's restrictions. So we've got that one over there. And we have this one over here. Okay, and to work out the probability of these, we've got to multiply along. And then we've got to add whatever this number is with this number. So if we have to work out this one first, it's going to be 0.87 multiplied by 0.18. Okay. And that will give you 0.1566. Okay, that is this branch that we've just done over here. This one and that one. We've multiplied those two. And that's given us that answer. Okay. Then we've got to work out this probability here. So this is going to be 0.13 multiplied by 0.25. And that is going to give us 0.0325. Okay, and we've just done that branch multiplied by that branch. Now I've got these two amounts. So just a quick little reminder, when we're working with trees, if we're trying to work out the probability of this happening, we've got to multiply along. Okay, but then when they're wanting to know about multiple sections in our tree, so like this one and this one, we add these two together, these two answers. So if I've got to write this out, I'm going to show you how you can lay this out. So we're going to do that, 0.87 multiplied by 0.18. And I'm going to add that. It's going to be 0.13 multiplied by 0.25. And that answer is going to give me 0.1891. Now let me go back and read my question and check that I've done everything they've asked me. Of the 2,500 survey respondents, how many said they only save water when restrictions are in place? Now, as soon as they say something along the lines of this many survey respondents or this many people out of this many people, they want to know how many people. Like they want to specifically know how many people. So we know that we're going to take the 2,500 and multiply it by the probability. So we first worked out the probability that they only save water when restrictions are in place. We take that number, we multiply it by the 2,500. So we're going to take that answer, which is 0.1891 multiplied by 2,500. And that would give you an answer of 472.75. Now we know that there is no such thing as 0.75 of a person. So what my answer is going to be, it's going to be between 472 and 473 people. Okay. And that is my answer. Now let's go and have a look at the next section. Okay. So now the next part is B. So it's not connected to A. This is now a different question. And they're saying a secondary school teacher wondered if young people's views would be similar to those seen in the online survey in A. She surveyed 200 students from year 9 to 13 at 2 local high schools. Okay, so this was question A. I'm going to put it on the back burner. And I'm going to start a new page for question B. So let's do that. Okay. Now, they haven't given us any kind of tree to help us out, but if we understand the context from A, she's trying to see if these are similar. So it's going to be pretty similar to what question A looked like. Okay. So if we read through this, it says 70% of students were concerned about climate change. Okay, so we didn't know anything about climate change in the previous question. Okay, that was all just concerned about water shortages. Okay, then they're talking about of those who were concerned about climate change. So of that group that were concerned, 85% were also concerned about water shortages. Okay, then it says 55% of those who were not concerned about climate change were concerned about water shortages. Okay, so I think I've got it from this. If I am needing to draw my tree, this is what I'm thinking it's going to look like. So the first line is 70% of students were concerned about climate change. And then they go to say, of these, this amount was concerned about water shortages. So we've got to have concerned about climate change, concerned about climate change, okay? And we know that of that amount, we've got to have people that are concerned about water, because that's what that second line says. So of those who were concerned about climate change, that amount were also concerned about water shortages. So concerned water shortages. Okay. So we've pretty much done the first two. We've done 70% of students were concerned about climate change, and we know that's going to be 0.7. Of those concerned about climate change, 85% were also concerned about water shortages. That's going to be 0.85. Okay. Then it says 55% of those who were not concerned about climate change. So we have a group that's concerned about climate change. Then we're going to have a group that's not concerned about climate change. Not concerned about climate change. Okay. And they're saying 53% of these ones, of these people, were concerned about shortages. Concerned about water shortages. Okay. And which amount did they give me here? They gave me 55%, 0.55. Okay, so this is everything they've given me. Now, I kind of need to fill in the blanks a little bit. So they've only really spoken about people that were concerned about water shortages. So in the context, you're either going to be concerned about water shortages or you're not going to be concerned about water shortages. You're concerned about the climate, about climate change. You're not concerned about climate change. So I need to go ahead and add in here that says not concerned about water shortages. Not concerned about water shortages. And this group also needs to have not concerned about water shortages. Okay, now we know this needs to add up to 1. Okay, so if I had to go 1 minus 0.7, it would give me 0.3. I'm just going to pop that in there. I know that this has to add up to 1. So if I go 1 minus 0.85, it's going to give me 0.15. Then I know that this also needs to add up to 1. So this is going to be 1 minus 0.55, which is going to give me 0.45. Okay. So there I've gone ahead and I've drawn the probability tree. Let me just read the question again, make sure I've done everything. So 70% of students were concerned about climate change. Check. Of those concerned about climate change, so of this group, 85 were concerned about water shortages. Amazing. Done that, check. Then it says 55% of those not concerned about climate change. So the 55% of those who were not concerned about climate change were concerned about water shortages. Okay, I've done that. Now the question says draw a probability tree of the situation, which I've done, and use it to find the probability that a student chosen at random is concerned about water shortages. So they're interested to know about the people concerned about water shortages. So if I grab my highlighter, let's go and find where are students concerned about water shortages. Well, up here, we are concerned about water shortages. And over here, we're concerned about water shortages. So we've got to work out this probability by going 0.7 multiplied by 0.8. We're going to get an answer, and we're going to add 0.3 multiplied by 0.55 to get this probability. So let me write that out. We've got 0.7 multiplied by 0.85 plus 0.30 multiplied by 0.55. Now, with that, let me double check I've got everything I need. Concerned about water shortages, 0.7 multiplied by 0.85. That would give me an answer of 0.595. And then this one, also concerned about water shortages, so it's going to be 0.3 multiplied by 0.55. And that's going to give me 0.165. And when I add those two together, 595, it's going to give me 0.76. Okay, so let me double check. I've answered the entire question of I, because a lot of students will just draw the tree, but they won't actually work out or find the probability. So make sure you're reading all your questions. Okay, let us move on to II, which is going to be an